Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where last episode our two witnesses, Inspector Hosonaga and Suzuki Natsume, took the stand, with both being on the beach that day, one as the watchful eye over Giselle, and the other invited due to being at Yumei University at the time. They gave their first dual testimony that we broke down with evidence, with the autopsy report only listing a single stab wound over the several mentioned. Suzuto then made a medical blunder, saying that Rei removed the knife to save the victim's life and has now been schooled on that point with further testimony, leading to us to need to examine our evidence to find a way forward. So let's get to that, shall we? A crime scene photograph awaits us, where we can see a very stabbed Giselle Brett. A mannequin in the corner. I'm wondering if that means anything at all, to be honest. We can magnify everything if we wish to, but that's about all we can get from this scene. The feathers are interesting, but that's from her hat, I guess. And we've got this newspaper here. Is there anything interesting on it? Well, I guess we'll examine both sides. Raucous England returnees tell all. This is the interview of you and Soseki-san. Is it, father? It looks as though it was quite an exchange. Yes, he became a little over-animated when he was talking about his time in England. The photograph managed to capture the moment his hand karate chopped me on the neck. I do hope you weren't hurt. I mean, karate choppings? What's on the back pages then? This is the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yumei Medical Research Laboratory. From Yumei's medical research? Father, isn't that your lab? Let me see that. The poison's been stolen. It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned his information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning the story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I put Rei in charge of the project. Rei? She was managing it. If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. We need to read this article very carefully. Oh no. An article about poison that was stolen from a laboratory at Yumei University. Even my father, who was responsible for the lab, knew nothing of the incident. Well, that's a hell of a thing to find out there. Okay, exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from Yumei Medical Research Laboratory. Following a lecture at Yumei by Suzuki Natsume on 11th of August, it's come to light that a very disturbing incident took place. A deadly poison being secretly developed in the university's forensic science laboratory was stolen. Deadly in tiny quantities. Even the smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Why is the poison being developed? Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids, and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Why did one have to remove a blade? Well, we move to the second page. Notes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim in both eyes. So the question is, now we've got this information, where do we put it? Let's examine a little bit more though. If we take off the pen's lid. Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the nib. Is something wrong, Father? Just so there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. The details of the fountain pen have been updated in the court record. Uh-oh, very small amount of liquid still inside. Do not touch! Do not touch! To be honest, I suspected poisoning ever since we heard about the eyes. But still. The RM initials are very clearly engraved here. And the fact that Miss Brett was clinging to this pen in the dying moments is very clearly a message too. To identify a killer, you mean? I don't think there can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. Yes, but not for that reason. Can I notice anything on the nib? No? Okay, on the end. There's some sort of emblem here, look. But it isn't a Yumei University one. It must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind? But that would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. Okay. It's a very small amount of liquid still inside the ink reservoir. And now it's implied that it does not belong. Well, that's some information updated from all of our stuff here. Yikes. So much information. Right, now we need to find something to actually present some of this evidence to. So, while we found lots of lovely stuff, what are we doing? So wait a second. Pulling a blade from the wound without finger causes heavy bleeding. That's basically knowledge that any medical researchers have been out of sense or to know doesn't sound like something I'd be presenting this to. In other words, there's no good reason why a defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Now, we're thinking the good reason, of course, is poison. So I'd say it's that, right? Now, what are we presenting? Because what I'm thinking here is, like, that's an article about the poison, but the poison hasn't been introduced to the case yet. But equally, without the poison being mentioned, then the extreme meiosis pupil constriction was observed in the victim's both eyes does not have any, like, you know, we need to set up for that too, to link the two, I guess. So if I'm thinking first, then I guess we'll talk about poison. Because that would be a very good reason to pull the blade out of her. Because you're thinking maybe, like, you can take away the poison. But equally,
Objection!
No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ah! The occult not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial Yumei unit.
Objection!
The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But... Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak. But a newspaper article. The court cannot rely on the kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense. I am going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. Your Excellency! Yes, of course. Thank you. Ray would never have done something to further endanger Miss Brett's life without just cause. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife from the victim's body is explained in the article where it says, deadly in tiny quantities. Poison stolen from the laboratory isn't going to be it. Why is the poison being developed? I mean, it's literally always the middle option for the most part, isn't it? Just instantly. First one that comes to mind. Let's look at the first word. Poison. Yeah, I guess. Deadly. Deadly. More. Pulling towards me. My middle answer thing always rings true. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. Though equally, if it is deadly in tiny quantities, then pulling the knife out and get out. Really? I guess it stops further administration. But equally, the tiny would already be there. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting... If the knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison, it would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What? I have a feeling she was dead every way, though. This is complete and utter nonsense. Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection!
Oh, please, this is clearly desperation. The weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway.
In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense.
Exactly. Well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, yokel?
Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What?
You can't possibly...
From your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in this courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence. Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen him many times, from my place at his side in the Old Bailey. In that case, counsel, you will present the proof to the court now. What evidence demonstrates a clear link between this case and the poison in the newspaper article? So now, we're looking for a link, so we don't look for the article itself. We look for the other thing. And of course, the other thing in there is the extreme meiosis pupil constriction, which Ray saw, correct?
Take that!
I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis pupil constriction was observed in the victim. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death.
Well,
Under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes.
what are you doing, you yokel detective?
In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death.
What?
If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence.
You... yokel student and yokel professor!
I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions.
No.
Yujin Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense's counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say.
Ha! This is the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in the newspaper.
I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Father!
A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees.
That's totally unfounded. None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault. Ray.
Membami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated.
But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day.
What?
So you knew? I've been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewed together for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was.
Why didn't you let me know immediately?
I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty English woman.
Miss Giselle Brett.
Oh my goodness. Proper espionage. That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison. Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet, before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints.
I don't believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison.
My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips while I'd been with her. Which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back.
And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade.
Yes. If the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time.
Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end.
Thank you. Your Excellency. It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here. In this courtroom now.
Objection!
Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say? Well, Membami-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed.
Well,
You have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge.
Objection!
you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you?
Oh, I have evidence, and it is very much conclusive.
What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it.
You will produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchi.
Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student.
What?
I had imagined there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you brought this on yourself.
Oh, whoa, that's pulling out though. What the? Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable.
This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature. For it shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged a dagger into the victim's back.
No, that's not true. No. I don't believe it. Ah! Who took that photo? Also, there's loads of gaps in this supposed hut.
Order! 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 Counsel for the defense, was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom?
Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature.
I'll show you who's slow to mature.
Careful now. Suzuto was starting to show her face here. It's often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print as evidence.
The incriminating photographs has been entered into the court record. My friend Ray can be seen kneeling over Miss Brett. I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute. I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Ray.
Objection!
That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention.
Oh,
Objection!
that's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony.
Ah!
I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once.
Well, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Pardon?
You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday. But there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown.
Actually, I think I might know. I think everyone might know.
Goodness!
Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence in the Supreme Court?
When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment. Because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you?
Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses.
The defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment that the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but
The moment it was withdrawn. Don't waste this course time with your ramblings.
Indeed. Without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim. And the scene it captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear.
oh no!
Suzuto, this is the time for you to fight. If what you've established so far is true, then there can be no doubt. This photograph shows the moment that Ray withdrew the blade from the victim.
Yes. We just need to prove that somehow.
You'll have plenty of time to rue your defeat on the slow train back to the provinces. And to rue the day you came up against Taketsuchi Ouchi in a court of law.
If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it.
Well, counsel.
Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph, and the truth is... I don't know I think I very much know. But yeah. Only Smarties. I think I know, but equally... wait a second. Even if I know, I don't have someone to... I don't have their profile to present. I mean, I'm sure I have the... Is there some other way? Maybe it's this. Hey, you managed to smuggle the kitten all the way back. I didn't just realize. Maybe it's that. Is there really anything the magnifying glass can actually ever help me with is what I wonder. I have the answer, baby. Don't get a penalty. This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. Then why ask? I simply have to. Yes. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal.
What? No, you can't possibly.
But as you both so boldly claim that you can, please do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name.
How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could?
However, I am able to present evidence. The defense is a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity.
What?
Very well then, counsel. Present your proof to the court. Which piece of evidence do you claim reveals something about the identity of the mystery photographer?
It's this, isn't it?
Take that!
What is that? The newspaper again? Raucous England returnees tell all.
It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Oh, I didn't even notice that! It's just I know who did it. My goodness, that's what the white lines were.
Ah, yes, indeed. They had already caught my eye, as it happens.
Ah, what of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like?
How did they not get that repaired?
There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you.
Now, if you look closely at this photograph,
Good gracious!
yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph too.
Objection!
Well, that tells us nothing.
No, it told me everything. I didn't even notice the lines, but I knew who it was.
Ha! Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely. On the branches of a tree.
There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach council.
Ah!
What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired?
The curious matching patterns that appear on both photographic prints is a result of a broken camera lens. It's a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs.
With the photographic device.
Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched, and that the scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device.
In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera.
But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one.
Objection!
I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchie, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article.
A newspaper... Ah!
That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime.
What? What?
Many me more! Many me more! Many me more! I see what you would call a raucous England returnee.
What are you yelling about? You've already testified.
It's many memo, I tell you. Many memo! Me, di, me, mo!
Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo?
Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Wrighton Many Memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk.
Ah, he's writing many memos. Now that he mentions it.
They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy.
Could that same reporter be...
A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Wrighton Many Memo.
So you're saying that this picture was taken by
Many Memo, yes. My lord, your excellency, Esquire. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime.
Oh, Yes, Your Excellency.
As you say, Your Excellency.
And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood?
Meh. Many memo!
Well, there are definitely clowns to the left of me. My father's to the right. Here I am, stuck deeply in the middle of another case. As we get a to be continued. So, coming at the ultimate perfect time, as another jingle plays, I ask you to join me next time as we bring Right in Many Memos to the stand. Let's find out what happens as we continue the Great Ace Attorney to Resolve. I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.